All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cleaning Professionals Podcast. I'm Seth.
I'm Patrick.
Patrick, we have a special guest on with us today. Who do we have?
We have Mr. Courtney Lee. Many of you know him. Most people within the community have at least heard of Courtney. Most have seen his YouTube videos. He's got a really big presence on social media. So we asked Courtney to come on, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk with us. So this is Mr. Courtney Lee. And Courtney, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself. I think most guys that are at least on social media know who Courtney Lee is. Very few don't. Uh, but for some maybe out there that don't, or for some that know you but don't really, they see you on Cleaners Connect and they see you on YouTube, but they don't really know the background, the story of about how Courtney Lee got started. Just give us a brief background about yourself.
Courtney Lee started out in the cleaning industry at the age of 19, reading a article back when when people used to find jobs in the newspaper, and I found a first job with it was a kind of like a bait and switch company, but I loved the freedom that I had, cleaning carpets. And at the age of 19, I really just kind of fell in love with the service of cleaning carpets and meeting people and just being at different locations in different cities day in and day out. After that, I started working for multiple other companies, coming from based out of the Atlanta metro area, which used to be very huge with a lot of multi-truck operations, but a lot of these operations do not exist anymore. So I used to kind of just bounce back and forth from different company, and then eventually the birth of Truman's at the time Truman Services, 2006. And I kind of picked up some of those bad habits working for some of those companies that I started with, and I kind of transitioned those, into Truman Services at the time. And for 5 years, man, I just failed, just doing a lot of work, working, but it wasn't making profit. And then eventually I started to revamp the business, change my mindset, change my appearance, just work on different things to help improve me, not just as a service provider but just as a person. Because one thing I will say about the service industry is that um, you're dealing with people, and a lot of people know BS. A lot of people know when you're trying to take advantage of them, or you're trying to do something that they're already familiar with. And I always wanted to be able to relate with people. And I think that's one of my special attributes, is being able to relate with people, and just be a people's person, because people buy from people. um Once I started doing this, I started doing videos on YouTube, and I started studying a lot of the companies that was in my area, and a lot of things. And one thing I noticed, that a lot of them did not do, was not only just before and after pictures, but videos. Nobody was doing videos. And I said, you know what, man, I can take advantage of this free platform, which was YouTube at the time, which was definitely wasn't big like it is now. And I just started doing videos to showcase my work. And I took a few of those videos and I put them on my front page of my website. And I used to always have people call me and just, hey, I love your videos. I love your videos. And I just started doing more and more and more. And next thing you know, I started having cleaners from around the country call me, from my YouTube videos, asking me what was I using, and what was I doing, and this and that. And next thing you know, one thing led to another. I started doing tips of the days and started catering more to the cleaners. And it just got to the point where it just started to get overwhelmed with calls every day from cleaners around the country. And I said, man, so before starting Cleaners Connect, I used to do Ring Central, when we used to have like a group of 40, 50 guys, and we would come on once a week and just talk about carpet cleaning. And I said, you know what? I told my buddy Chandler Thompson, I said, man, I want to start a group on Facebook, and that was 4 years ago. And I, came up with the name Cleaners Connect. And I asked Chandler, would he be a part of it? He said yes. And we started Cleaners Connect, and the rest was history, and just has been a great platform, and has definitely given a lot of cleaners opportunities to better themselves, enhance their cleaning skills and their business, mindsets, and also myself. Cleaners Connect has definitely brought me a lot of opportunity as well. So that's just a little background of Courtney Lee, guys.
Cool.
All right, um, not to go back to your story, but I've heard you tell a story about kind of the breaking point for you when you was at the drive-through. You remember, you
Yeah,
know what I'm talking about? Tell that
yeah,
story real quick because that's a really good story.
yeah, my fried chicken story. It's probably about, oh man, probably about 9 years ago, and I went well, first me and my wife and kids, we went to Target, and guys, I probably had like $87 in my account, and I don't know if you guys have been in this position. So I swiped my card and I did it as credit. I did it as credit. So hopefully they didn't take the money right away. And I thought they didn't. So we're going home, stopped at Popeyes fried chicken, and it was like a box of chicken for like maybe a little bit over $20. And I gave the teller my card and it declined because Target had took their money when we just left Target. And man, the my wife, well, she was with my wife at the time, but my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she had ended up paying for it, and it made me feel so low as just a husband, a father, a person. Because like here I am, I'm working every day in, day out, doing all. I mean, guys, there was a time, man, I was doing like 5, 6 jobs a day, but I did not understand business. I'm like, how am I doing all these jobs? And even my wife, was asking me, "You doing all these jobs? Where's your money?" I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't even answer the own question. And man, I tell you guys, man, I share this story because a lot of us go through these things, but a lot of us don't. We're not open with it because sometimes we feel like we're the only person that is going through struggle. And a lot of people, most people in this world struggle. Most people do not come from, royalty families or rich families. It's just not reality. And guys, I went home, man, and that whole night I just cried. I just cried, man, and I'm a very spiritual praying person. I pray a lot and I meditate a lot. And I just promised myself I would not put myself in that position again. And from that night, I just changed my mindset and I said, enough is enough. I don't care if I don't have any money. I just cannot keep doing this. And I just say with the grace of God, I don't even know how I did it, but I know I went through it, and I just stopped servicing cheap customers. I started, rebuilding my name, my brand, and that's when I went through my revamping stage. Revamping the business, getting away from the low end customers. I finally had saved up like $1,500, and I met this guy who was doing SEO at the time. And I never forget, he came to my house and he told me, he said, "Yeah, I can do your SEO and get you on Google." And it was just something about this guy that I really trust him. I had got a good vibe because that's the kind of person I am. I pick up on people's vibes. And I think what it boils down just picking up on their spirits. And I had just got a good feeling about this guy. And he said, for me to put you on Google, it's going to be $1,000. And I'm like, damn, at the time I only had $1,500. I'm like, damn, I got to get this guy like all my money
Yeah.
basically. And I did it, and I did it. And I say within like 3 to 4 weeks, it really started paying off. And then I started doing, I went and bought this book called Adwords for Dummies. Those dummy books. And that's how I learned how to do Google AdWords back then. And I started doing Google AdWords, and that was a big part of my success. So I just really just start every time I got a profit, I just start using that money to do something new into the business. And I ended up giving me a van, which was one of the proudest days of my career. Me and my wife had went and got this van. It's like $2,500, and it was like a great van for $2,500. And next thing you know, like 6 months later, I ended up getting my first truck mount, which that was an amazing story because the guy, I went to John Dunn, and this guy who was one of the salesmen at the time, I had put in the application, and he was like, "Yeah, which, not having good, at the time I didn't have good credit." He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to end up putting like $5,000 down." I'm like, $5,000, and it was a box of 318, and the box was only like 12 grand. Like, damn, it's almost half, it's like, I'm the kind of person I envision and see a lot of things, before it happens. And I just kept seeing this truck mount, just kept dreaming about it, kept seeing it in my dreams, I just kept seeing it, guys. And I'm like, I keep seeing it, but I don't have the money for it. Where's it going to come from? So I'm like, is somebody going to give me the money? I'm going to hit the lottery or something. And I'm like, man, I don't have $5,000 to put down on a truck mount. So something told me, it's just that back of your, something speaking to you. Something told me to call at the time it was Hathaway Capital that was financing it. And something told me to call them myself. And I called and the lady picked up and I told her, and I said, hey, I submitted an application trying to get a truck mount. And I just really just poured my heart out to the lady. I said, this truck mount will really, really do me justice. It will really take my business to the next level like I really needed to. And she said, you know what, Mr. Lee, let me go talk to my manager and see what we can do for you. And at the time, guys, again, I think I had like maybe a couple grand in my account. And and she called me back like 2 days later and she said, Miss Lee, I got some good news. Well, we can put you get you a truck mount, the Boxer 318, brand new for $500 down. And guys, that was another big part of my business. Getting that truck mount really elevated my business because it allowed me to feel more confident about myself because I had been rolling a portable around for 5 years. And when I got that truck mount, it just gave me like a superpower. I just felt so good to pull out those hoses and people see the truck mount, leave the doors open. And I was also always able to be more efficient with my work and get better results. And and people, I could say at least in my area, I live in the suburbs. So I can see if you live in New York City or something like that. But here in the suburbs, 30 miles from Atlanta, people they're used to seeing certain types of equipment. We have the big companies like we have Stanley and Zero Res here in the Atlanta metro area. So people know they kind of hip to the type of equipment we use. And I used to tell how people would look at me when I would bring that portable into their house. But as soon as I got my truck mount, it was like, oh yeah, man, oh yeah, you got the truck mount, you got the machine in the van. I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, the last cleaner they have that. I said, what did he have? Oh, he had this portable. And I said, well, did he do a good job? Well, it was okay, but we just wanted the truck mount. I said, oh, so that's why you didn't call him back? Yeah. And then it clicked on me. I said, damn. I mean, guys, real story. I got more repeats and referrals 1 year with the truck mount than 5 years with a portable. A lot of guys want to hear that, but it's just the reality of perception, you know. And that truck mount, like I said, I knew it. That's why I told that lady it would change my business. And within 1 year, having that Boxer 318 changed my business.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was just going to say that's one thing, Courtney, I think with you that's so unique and why so many people are drawn to you and why you have such a following is because of how genuine you are. I've always felt that about you is your willingness to share and you being a really genuine person, all sorts of stories, whether, we see your success, but then you also talk about your failures. And that's one thing that not many people, especially in our industry, not many guys are willing to do. You'll see plenty of people talk about success and you'll see plenty of people brag about success, but very few people will give you the whole picture. And one thing I've always respected about you is, you always, tell it the way it is, good, bad, or ugly. And I think a lot of people respect that about you. And that's one thing that I enjoy, especially with the YouTube. I've enjoyed looking at the evolution of Courtney Lee because you can go back and look and watch those videos and see where you were and then see where you are. And it's just, it's amazing to me when I go back and I look at those videos from years ago. And by the way, they were still entertaining then. I still enjoy watching those, but it's really interesting to see. And I think people actually get to see it's a more genuine experience than so many of these guys that just hop on there and, talk about their success. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, what I was going to say too, kind of adding to what Patrick said, was that turning point that you just talked about. That would have broke a lot of guys. A lot of guys, they would have given up and gotten out. And that's kind of almost everybody goes through that to a certain point, and that you find out really what you're made of. And that was really good to hear how you kind of decided, okay, I can't keep dealing with the same type of customer. What do you think so many guys stay in that mind frame of, well, no, I have to stay at this type of customer. I can't branch out to go to the higher end. What do you think that is?
Fear and not understanding how one thinks. When you think a certain way, or when you see certain, it's like a person growing up, in the hood their whole life. Well, they don't know what it's like to live in the suburbs. It's like someone who's grown up in the trailer parks their whole life. They don't know what it feels like to grow up in a gated community, and vice versa. It's like someone who grows up in a gated community. They don't know what it feels like. But sometimes we have to put ourselves in different positions, and that's one thing I was willing to do because, like I said, it got to the point where it wasn't getting any better; it was getting worse. When you can't, buy a box of chicken for $20, I mean, like, it's not going to get any better.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of it is a lot of guys are just so, not physically, but mentally they're trapped, because they can't see past what they're doing. And I've had guys tell me that I have guys come up to me, guys, at Customer Appreciation Day. This one guy came, I never forget, about 4 or 5 years ago. He said, Courtney, man, I wish I can turn my business around because I always hear you talking about it. I always hear you talking about revamping your business. He said, Courtney, I've been doing this for 20 years, man. If I did that, I would literally lose all the customers I've been doing for 20 years. And I said, I can understand, but you have to be willing to accept that. And he was willing to accept that. Deep down, he wanted to change his business model, but he knew if he did, like when I did it, I was like 5 years in. When this guy's talking about he's 20 years in, he's 2 decades in. That's a long time. And I think that's what a lot of, I think it's so important now with the information that we have on social media and YouTube and the internet. It's like you really have to really understand what you're putting yourself in and where you want to go in your business, even before starting a business. Because I see so many people do that. They just want to copy and paste. Oh, I want to do what Courtney's doing. I want to do what Patrick's doing. I want to do what Stan and Steamers doing. I hear guys say it all the time. Oh, I'm gonna take all Stan and Steamers customers. I'm like, dude, that just shows me you don't even understand what you're doing. Stan and Steamers is a franchise. They're and not only are they a franchise, they're not a traditional carpet cleaning company. They're a marketing company. They just market carpet cleaning. They can care less if the customer is happy or not. Most of them. Now I can't say all of them, but it's not the same. So when I hear guys comparing themselves to Zero Reds and Stan and Steam, I'm like, dude, those companies are totally different worlds than you are. And but yeah, it's just a mindset. But you gotta be willing to risk. You buy, just like me, when I had that $1,500 and that $1,200, I was willing to risk that. I was willing to give that dude that $1,000. I didn't know if I was going to get the results, and that's the kind of person I am. It's all about risk. And I think when you take risks, it's not going to always, be on your side, and you're not always going to be rewarded for it. But I do believe if you do it with the right intentions, because it's just money. So many people get caught up in money, and I hear these, you see it on these groups, and it's money, 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 money. I'm like, dude, money comes and goes. We spend money, we make money, we invest money, we lose money, we give money, we receive money. I mean, it's just money, and that's another thing. I think a lot of us we get so dialed in and so focus on the money, we forget what really matters.
Mhm. Yeah, another thing too to add to that, something that I heard you say too on I think it was one of your live videos you did in Cleaners Connect. You were kind of chastising some of the young guys. You were kind of picking on them and saying, "Listen, you're going to go to these houses wearing your pajama pants or whatever." I can't remember what you were saying, but basically picking on the guys not having a uniform, not
Yeah,
dressing the part. Yeah, talk a little bit about that. Give some of
yeah.
these guys some help on that.
Yeah. It's all about perception, and again, it's all about who you're trying to identify with. Like me, I don't know if you guys remember me talking about this, but I used to have gold teeth, because the neighborhood that I grew in, that's what we did. My mom had them, my grandma had them, so it was just something that I was, again, always used to seeing. So I had got them at the age of 16 to like the age of what, like 27, and I ended up getting them taken off, and I got veneers because, again, I knew which direction I wanted to take my business, and I knew I could not go into certain neighborhoods and certain homes because they can't relate to that. You see what I'm saying? They can't identify with that. And I think that's what a lot of guys, they try to play both sides of the field. Like you hear cleaners say, "Oh, I'm the best cleaner," but they charge $30 a room. That doesn't make sense. It's like saying Ferrari, is the best car, but they sell for $30,000. You can't be the best, but be the cheapest. And but a lot of it comes to how you present yourself. Because we all know as businessmen, you can look at a guy, you look at any scam artist, look at any people that took advantage of someone. People looked at them and trusted them by the way they look. Look at Bernie Madoff. If he
Mhm.
dressed like a bum, no one would trust him. You see what I'm saying? But he had everything visually set up where people would give him their hard-earned money, and the whole time he was a crook. He was a scam artist. So that's my thing is it all starts about it's that old saying, your first impression is your last impression. You can be the nicest person in the world, but if you walk around looking mean and you don't smile, well, how do people know that? See what I'm saying? So we gotta be careful how we present ourselves. And you can present yourself any way you want, but you have to understand whatever person you're trying to present yourself to, you got to be able to relate to that person.
Yeah. Patrick?
Talk a little bit about the mindset of some of these cleaners. I think that's something I saw you touch on a lot of times is and that's kind of what we were talking about just then, but the mindset of so many of these guys is so hard to change. And we had Philip Wallman on here last week, and this was a good point Philip made was he said, he was talking about his dad being a carpet cleaner, but he said for the longest time, my dad's mindset was, he said he wouldn't charge people enough because in his mind, he would think, well, I would never pay that for a service. And I think that that's a problem with a lot of guys. They're trying to get their mindset changed, from what they would pay to the thinking about the type of customer, what that customer would pay. And I know I've heard you talk a little bit about that. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yes, sir. So the reason why I kind of blame the industry itself, because when you look at any industry, carpet cleaning, I mean, it just falls to the bottom of the barrel. You don't have to be the most educated person, if educated at all. Again, when it comes to appearance, you see how some of these guys dress, you see some of the vehicles they drive around. I mean, even myself, these carpet cleaning companies, they just hire anybody and throw them in a van. These guys, when they see these, they go work for Stanley Steemer and they say, "Oh, damn, Stanley Steemer, I just did $2,000, with this one truck for them. I can go do that for myself." And that's how a lot of them become carpet cleaners. But the reason why is because I've talked to a few of the IRCRC guys is that this industry really has no standards. I mean, when you go down to the root, we can blame the technicians, but you look at any other industry, electrician, plumber, and I'm not saying they don't have their bottom of the barrel, but carpet cleaning, it just falls so far down to like landscaping and, tree, guys who cut trees, because this industry has no standards. When you can send someone into someone's house with no education of what they're doing, I mean, think about this, guys. Carpet cleaning is the only industry where a guy can go in someone's house with chemicals, okay, with chemicals, and put chemicals in the carpet and make the home more toxic than it was before he went in. Who do you
Yep.
blame for that? Who do you
Yep.
blame? You don't blame. And so I was like, why doesn't this industry have like regulations and what people have to be licensed? I mean, I hire my AC guy. He goes into the attic with a flashlight and a toolbox. I hire my plumber. He comes in with a toolbox. I hire my electrician. He comes in with a toolbox. I hire my handyman. He comes in with a toolbox. But you hire a carpet cleaner, he shows up with pre-sprays, and then he's mixing pre-sprays and, rust removals and acids. And it's like, but he has no knowledge of what he's doing. So I really blame the industry. A lot of people don't want to admit that, but when it comes to me and the way I feel about it, I think it's the industry's fault, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that control the regulations.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that because I feel like that if there was standards and if there was some kind of because any guy can just start a carpet cleaning business tomorrow, put signs on the side of the road, come into
Yep.
somebody's oxidizers and like you said,
Yeah.
acids. But if there was, like you said, I mean, you can't just decide tomorrow that you're going to be an electrician and start advertising to be an electrician, and put a sign on the side of the road saying, "Hey, electric," So if there was some kind of standard, I think the industry would be less watered down, and if there was at least a minimum standard that you had to meet, it would keep a lot of these bottom of the barrel people out and make the industry a little better than what you're talking about. Because I think that's what I mean. Like you said, pretty much anybody can just become start a carpet cleaning business. So I think that make a solid point there.
Yeah, anybody can start a carpet cleaning business, and I'll say, yeah, I mean, you got these companies, and the carpet cleaning industry is just so divided. I mean, it's high price, low price, high end, low end, or hot water extraction, CR, low moisture cleaning. It's just so separated. Just like when you really reflect, and when I reflect on this industry that I've been in for 21 years, it's just I can see why, and I'm very grateful that these groups were not around when I was going through my rebuild, because I see why a lot of guys get confused now. If a guy want to put up a question on one of these groups, I mean, what's the best pre-spray? I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. What's the best one? Here we go. Well, how much should I charge? And that's another question I just don't understand. And that lets me know that one doesn't understand what he's doing when he's saying, how much should I charge? Like, how much should you charge? Well, what are you doing? How long is it going to take you to do it? What are you going to have to use to do it? So like I said, man, this industry, I've been in this industry for 21 years, and I have seen them come, and I've seen more go than I've seen, I've seen more come and go than I've seen more come and stay. And it's just a revolving door, the carpet cleaning industry, because like you said, Patrick, it's so watered down. It's so many cleaners. But one thing I will say you can see now is that I can see a cleaner come into the industry today, and a year later, you see him selling his equipment on these buy, sell, and trade groups, and I see it all the time. So, but it has this good point. Nothing's perfect, but I really believe if I could, contribute in some type of way, I can definitely help rebuild this industry. Even though I'm doing more hardwoods now, I could probably be one that can help make this industry a lot better for those that that want to do it the right way and also want to take it serious.
Yep. That's a pretty good transition point too. I wanted to ask you, what year did you get into the hardwood flooring cleaning aspect of it, and what made you want to get into it?
Well, I got into the hardwood cleaning about, I'm gonna say about 9, 10 years ago. I just started cleaning hardwood floors with a 175 that I had picked up for like $300, and I started cleaning hardwood floors with a red pad and a white pad and just some neutral cleaner. And then my buddy Chandler had turned me on to the Dirt Dragon, and I bought the Dirt Dragon. I took the basic coatings class, and I started using the Dirt Dragon. And then people ask me all the time, well, how did you get into the wax removal? And I said, I think I just had got into a bad job and I didn't know what to do. And I realized I had to get this stuff off the floor the best I could. And then I had ended up getting the Lindhaus, and just over the years, it's just trial and error. And I always looked at it, I always had hardwood floor as just an add-on service. So someone said, oh, you do hardwood floors? Because I never marketed the service. It was on my website, but I never marketed the service. And last year, I don't know what happened with YouTube, but some kind of way their algorithms had changed. And around November, I'm gonna say late October, November, I just started getting so many hardwood floor jobs calls. And I'm like, where are these calls coming from? Like, and I started asking customers, how did you YouTube? I found you on YouTube. And I'm like, man, so good that I had been doing those videos over the years. And I think about this month, this year, the beginning of this year, because for the last 2 years, guys, I'll just be honest, I was just burnt out with carpet cleaning, and I just didn't know what else I was wanted to do. And I'm like, I just need to find something else to do, because I had just started losing my passion for carpet cleaning, and I can tell because I started taking shortcuts, and I'm like, I just can't give customers this type of service, even though they don't notice it. But I can't start shortcutting my services because of how I feel, and actually, there's a local distributor called Truck Mount Cleaning Solutions, TCS. Well, his guy that had been working for him for years had left, just left out of the blue. And me and him, the owner, had actually talked. And I was actually going to set up where I can micromanage Truman Steemers. And I was going to go work up at TCS as the sales. It's like the front, the guy who, took the guy's place and just kind of ran the front of it, because that's when we had came out with the True Clean and the True Rinse. And next thing you know, all these hardwood floor jobs just start pouring in like crazy. And I just be honest with you guys, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on more hardwood floors. So I got a whole website built for hardwood floors. I changed my name. I just restructured my whole business now around hardwood floors because we have a large clientele of carpet cleaning customers and people can still find us. And I end up getting a new truck. I wrapped that strictly for hardwood floors. I end up, getting more, investing in more equipment. And now I just focus on hardwood floors now. And I will tell you guys, I have not cleaned a one carpet this year, except my own carpet in my own house, because I've been that busy with hardwood floors.
So yeah, I definitely see it on your YouTube channel now. I mean, it's doing all kinds of jobs, good jobs too, nice houses. And I see you got to meet somebody the other day. Who did you meet on your
Yeah,
YouTube video? I commented on.
Yeah, that was Mr. Michael Purser. I'm gonna tell you a funny story about him. So I was at a job one day, and he's on YouTube, but he doesn't
Mm.
have a big following. But I learned a lot from his YouTube channels. Certain things that he would talk about. He does a lot of educational videos. The name of his company is his YouTube channel is the Rosebud Company. So I was on his website one day, and I said, "Oh my God, this guy's local," because he had done some work for the Fox Theater. I'm like, man, if I can, get with this guy, so I called him and I left a message because he didn't answer the phone. I left a message and I just told him who I was and I really admire his work. And if I could just, set up a meet and greet and even pay him for his time. So, left a message and I'm gonna say about 2, maybe 3 months went by and didn't hear from him. And I'm the kind of person, if I don't hear from you, I'm not going to hound you, chase you down. So one day I was at a job and I was doing a hardwood floor wax removal job, and I get this phone call, and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great." He said, "My name is Michael Purser, and I have been watching your videos, and I just want to let you know, I don't know what you're doing to these floors or how you're doing it, or even where you got the knowledge from, but I have been doing hardwood floors for over 50 years." And you have a special niche, and I'm just so interested in what you're doing. And I said, Michael Person? I said, are you the owner of the Rosebud Company? He said, yeah. I said, I left you a message like 3 months ago because I've been watching your videos. So we talked for like an hour, and then he called me back like 5 minutes later, and he said, you know what? I just listened to your voicemail. So he never checked the voicemail that I left him, and I finally got a chance to meet him. Like you said, 3 days ago, he had this huge job project that he picked up, and he said he kind of regretted he did it because it was really for a favor. He doesn't like doing big jobs. He got 75 years old. He's been doing
Mm.
hard floors for 50 years, and he said, Courtney, I don't have to clean hardwood. I mean, not clean. I don't have to refinish hardwood floor. I do it just to get out the house because I just cannot sit in the house all day.
Yeah.
He said this job was just way too big for me. So he had me, and then I had, my ride along trainees, and also my new guy who I'm showing. We went in there and just basically just stripped. It wasn't wax; it was like a varnish. But we took it off so he was able to take care of the floors after we did what we did. And he said he's going to start referring me out and giving my name out to people. But this guy's, like I said, he's 50 years in the Atlanta metro area. So he has a great reputation with certain individuals. So yeah, so that's how I met Michael. It was really a great experience to meet someone who's been doing it that long. But also he told me too, he said, Courtney, I heard you say you want to learn how to sand floors and you're taking a class in September. I said, yeah, I just want to just kind of, just get the fundamentals and just understand sanding floors. He said, I understand that. He said, I used to sand floors. But he said, Courtney, do not get sidetracked off your niche. You have a special niche. He said, what you do, most hardwood guys like me do not do. He said, do not lose that niche, because the more your name spreads, the more and more you're gonna get busy in sanding floors, which some jobs would take you 3 to 4 or 5 days. You're doing so much better what you're doing with your screen and recoats and your wax removals. And he's right, because I've had probably 3 or 4 hardwood guys that sand floors say, man, I wish I could trade places with you. So it's like, I'm still going to take my class. I'm like, damn, everybody keep telling me this. Is sanding that bad?
So
I
do you
think
not?
probably
So do you not plan on going the sanding route then? Do you not really plan on?
No, again, I just want to take the class so I can, at least understand the fundamentals of sanding. And if I do get like a small project, let's say like 1,000 square foot or less, maybe it's something you'd be willing to do myself. But from what all these hardwood guys are telling me, like Courtney, the money you're making doing wax removal and screen and recoats, when you break it down, like one of my guys told me, he said, Courtney, I can get a $5,000 job for sanding floors, but it'll take me 3 or 4 days to do it. So he said, when you break that down per day, what you're making way more money than what standing guys are doing, because yes, our tickets are $5, $6, $7,000, but it's taking us days, sometimes even weeks, because we got to go in there. You got to think about when they sand floors, what I do with one pass, they have to do with 3 or 4 passes. So they usually start off with like a 36 grit, then they go up to a 60 grit, then they go to an 80 grit, and then they have to buff it down, and then they have to apply the stain if they and then the poly. So it's a whole lot. And then they gotta sometimes take the shoe molding off, and the baseboards and the quarter
Guys,
round. So it's they gotta do the edging. So it's definitely a longer process than what I do.
right. Hey guys, I don't mean to, Seth. I'm gonna have to let you finish. I've got an emergency that's came up, but Courtney, it's good talking to you. I'm sorry to be rude. Seth, can you finish up here?
Yep.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too,
All right.
Patrick.
See you. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Me and Patrick both have a mutual friend close to us who does hardwood floor sanding, and he was telling me, he said you can come. I've been he's helping me out on a couple of jobs too, and he was telling me you can come along and buy some of my equipment. And I said, well, it takes you 3 days to sand a job, and you're making good money. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, I think I'll stick to what I'm doing. Like you were saying, you're making it in 3 or 4 hours, and that's a big difference.
Yeah. So
But
so I'm definitely want to continue to do what I do and market myself, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm basically marketing myself as the guy that can save your hardwood floors instead of them or sanding them, and I'm just getting very good at it. Even like able to change the color a little bit in the floor, add color to it, feel deep scratches. So there's a lot you can do with hardwood floor. You can get very creative with hardwood floors, and but yeah, I must say I'm really, really like today. I went and did a job just removing glue residue. Guys had just installed brand new hardwood floors. Well, the installers had got glue all over the shoes, and they tracked glue all over this brand new floor. And the job took me like maybe 3 hours, but it was $1,800.
oh well,
And
yeah,
all I
that's good
used,
money.
yeah, only piece of equipment I used was my 175.
Yeah, so you can't make that carpet clean, can you?
Oh,
Not in that time frame, anyway.
not in that time frame.
Yeah, you remember? I think the first time I called you was probably maybe 4 years ago. Do you remember that? You probably
No,
don't.
probably. Uh-uh.
So I called you up, and this is kind of going back to what Patrick was saying, your honesty. I don't remember what the question was, but I was doing something to some hardwood floors. I had just started, and I'd taken the basic coatings course too, but I was still green. It was my very first hardwood floor job. I was like, I've been watching this guy, Courtney. I'm going to call him. And sure enough, you answered the phone, and I told you what I was doing. You're like, that ain't going to work. He was like, you can do it that way, but you're going to be there for 4 or 5 hours. And sure enough, I was there for about 4 or 5 hours. Got the job done, but yeah.
Yeah.
And most, that honesty was good, but you was helpful too. You gave me some advice and some tips on how to get it done right. So
Yeah, I kind of get that from two guys. Two guys I really admire in this industry is Mark Sager and Rob Allen. And I will say, man, ever since I reached out to those guys, they always answer, my questions. They always, if they didn't answer, they always called back. And I really appreciate those guys, because those guys have really been great pioneers and great leaders in this industry. I mean, a lot of us, can learn from everybody, but I will say those two guys were a really big part in my success because Mark, I got the videos because when I first started watching YouTube, he was the first guy that I started watching was Mark Sager.
Yeah.
And Rob Allen, TML Farm was a really, really big um, um, uh, part of my journey, because there was a guy on there that called himself 1K a day, and I think his name is Skip. That what people say. Never met the guy, never talked to him, but he was the first guy that really showed me that a carpet cleaner can make $1,000 a day. And then before then, I did not believe it. And then of course, Rob Allen himself, just all the valuable information he's given out over the years, and he continues to give value information. So yeah, I just kind of mimic those guys in a certain way, but doing it my own way. And there's a whole lot more guys out there, but those are two guys that are really special in this industry.
Oh yeah. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, you have any plans for 5 years? You want to keep doing the hardwoods? Or you got some big plans?
No, people always ask me, Courtney, what's your end goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And this might be hard for a lot of people to understand. I don't focus on 5 years. I just focus on what's in front of me today. So when tomorrow gets here, after we get off this show, I want to play me some video games. So that's my next plan. But I know it sound weird that people to kind of understand what I'm saying, but it's this verse in the Bible that says, take care of today and tomorrow will take care of itself. Tomorrow has its own worries. And just by looking at people's lives, your life can change in any moment. There are people, there are spouses who are taking care of their spouses, and did not plan, to do it. There's people who are taking care of their kids because the child got into a car accident and now they have to take care of the child for the rest of their life. There's people who lost all their money, in a scandal, and I've seen these stories and I've heard these stories. So that's why I say I don't focus on 5 years. I don't focus on the end game, my retirement. I just focus on today. You know, I can just be the best person I can be today. Do what I have to do to get through today, and then I'll worry about tomorrow. So when it comes to 5 years, when people ask me, like in being in this position now, I didn't focus on it. I just did what I had to do at that moment, and I just figured it just added up. It just added up. I was the best person I could have been 5 years ago, doing the best work, giving the best quality, just focusing on what I had to do at that moment, and that moment is what plays a big part in our future. So yeah, I don't. So to answer your question, I don't plan. I don't have a plan for 5 years.
Let me ask you now too. You've got a hardwood floor group. Do you have any other groups too besides it?
Yeah, I do have the Hardwood Floor Group. It's a private group.
Tell us about that.
Basically just a paid group. Cleaners who really, really want to learn from me. Because I have a lot that I share in the group that I don't share in the public. So a lot of things that I do, a lot of techniques, a lot of chemistry, a lot of tools and products that I just don't share because again, it took me years and years and trial and error to get to this point where I'm not gonna say I perfected it, but I'm very good at what I do. And I just feel like when you're good at what you do, you just don't give it all away for free. So, with Cleaners Connect and YouTube, I give a little nuggets here and there, and people who really want to learn from you. And it's not, I mean, people can still respect you, but I know that, and I know everybody's not going to pay me, to join my group. But for the ones that really want to learn and who see value in me, that's who it's for. So right now, I have about 67 members, and I think I get about an average of about one, maybe two members a week because actually, a lot of my lately, I'm gonna say about 10 of my members have come from referrals from other members, telling them how good the group is. So yeah, so a lot of my members, like I said, about the last 10 of my members have been referrals from all active members. And it's just me. I go in there. I do hands-on videos and how to and what not to do. Things like that. And it's really has been a good group of individuals that want to learn more about the hardwood floors.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably one of the neatest things that I see that you're doing out there is the adding a tint to the finish. You don't know
Yeah,
see hardly anybody doing that. And when I saw you doing that, I was like, holy cow.
yeah,
You just
yeah.
changed the game right there. That was
Everybody
unbelievable.
if you do that. I did one yesterday. She wanted me to make it a little darker, and I made it darker just the way she wanted it. Because when you're tinting, I mean, all I use, and I'm just giving you guys a little nugget right now. These just like carpet cleaning chemistry, the hardwood business and the chemistry in the products are they're really advancing. So you hear a lot of bad experience about people say you're not sanding my floors because my last experience with sanding, the smell just ran us out the house. It was just so strong and it took so long to dry because those were oil-based products. Well, now there's a lot of water-based products. Like most finishes now are water-based. Most polyurethanes are water-based. Now they even have water-based stains. Okay, so I've used oil-based stains, and they take forever to dry. Okay, especially depending on what part of the country you're in. One of my members, Jessica O'Donnell, she put stain on a hardwood floor. She was up in Pennsylvania. This was like maybe a month ago. She said it took 9 days for that stain to dry. 9 days. So with water-based stain, like down here, I could put water-based stain on a hardwood floor. It'd be dry in 15, 20 minutes. I can start applying. So now what I do is so I use all water-based stains, all water-based polyurethane. So if I have a floor that I want to enhance, add stain to it, make it darker, or just add the same color, I use these water-based stains that they have now, and I can either use them standalone or I can add them to my polyurethane. And I think it's so cool because when you see that, people see like, man, he just made the hardwood floors darker. He just added stain to it. And yeah, that's how I do it, man. So a lot of it just experimenting and, just, again, because one thing about hardwood floors, let's say if you put a stain on there and you don't like the stain, you can always sand it or scrape it off, you
Mhm.
know? So and that's one thing about the stain. When I add the stain to my poly, I always start off light. So once I do my first couple rows, if I want to make it darker, I just take the stain back to the truck. The poly back to the truck and add maybe another 2 or 4 ounces to it, and to make it darker. So yeah, it is a pretty cool thing to add the stain to the poly.
Yeah, because I'd done a customer's floor probably a year ago, and they were like, "I wish I could get them darker." And I said, "Well, the only way to do that is to stain the whole floor." And then shortly after that, I saw a video of it from you, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Crazy."
Yes,
All
sir.
right, well, there's a couple people had some questions for you. I'm going to read one of them to you,
Okay.
and then I'm going to play an audio of one. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the first guy, he was basically just wanting to know if he's getting into the hardwood floor, he just wants to do the cleaning. What tools are you going to recommend for him to get?
An extractor, the Dirt Dragon, or a BR40 Culture, and a 175 is a must. A 175, a CRB if optional, and also, like I said, some type of extraction tool like a Dirt Dragon or a the Culture machine. So you want to have the ones to do. Well, you can do almost anything with a 175. You can scrub, you can buff, you can clean. Like today, I use my 175 on the same job. I use one pad to scrub it, and I use one pad to clean it. So the 175 is a must. Like I said, I start off with a 175, just using white and red pads. But and a good extraction tool like a Dirt Dragon or a Culture is going to be your best friend, because it's going to really, really extract that dirt off the floor, like unlike a pad or a mop.
Yeah. And I think I've sent you texts too before. There's this store that I go to that's close to my house, and it seems like every time you have a new tool, all of a sudden it pops up in that store just out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have one section which got every single tool that's Courtney's using. I sent a picture to you. I said,
yeah. I remember
somebody
that.
asked, the customer asked, "Do you have this?" He's like, "Does Courtney market it?" Yes, we have it.
Yep.
All right, let me play this one question for you. Let me know if you can't hear it. Maybe if I turn my volume up.
Hi, Courtney. This is Jim Appleby from Elmira, Pennsylvania. How did you get all of your wood cleaning knowledge?
Did you hear
When
that?
he said he want to do what now?
He asked, how did you attain all of your hardwood floor cleaning knowledge?
Years of experience and trial and error. Like I said, I do watch YouTube videos and kind of just see what other people are doing, but a lot of it was just off of again, going in the house and just doing it, not being afraid. I see cleaners all the time that ask the same question over and over, but I realize they're afraid. Like when I tell cleaners that I'm screening floors, they say, "Well, Courtney, what grit are you using?" I'm like, "Well, it depends on the floor. I can drop down into an 80 grit, or I can go all the way up to like a 250 grit. It depends on what I'm doing." So a lot of it just from trial and error. I'm just that type of person. I don't mind taking risk. I feel like and I will say, I'll be honest with you guys, I have messed some floors up where I have had to get floors sanded. I've This year I probably came out the pocket almost. One job was $4,000, another job was 17, and another job was about 15. So I've come out the pocket a little bit over 7 grand having floors restanded because the job just didn't go the way I planned it. So that's another thing I will say. If the more you get into hardwood floors, especially with the screen and recoat and the wax removal, the cleaning is just cleaning. You really can't mess that much up with cleaning. The only thing you can really mess up with floors with cleaning is leaving too much residue, or if you use too much water and you cause the floors to warp, especially engineered floors. But when it comes to the wax removal, you don't know what's under that floor when you remove the wax. That's one thing about wax. You know it's wax on the floor, but you don't know how much wax is on the floor until you get into the job.
All
And
right.
wax removals can be one of the most pain in the butt jobs that you can do when it comes to hardwood floors. I've seen a lot. When I tell you, not a few, I've seen a lot of cleaners try to do wax removal and say they'll never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did one uh, not too long ago. Luckily, like you have a friend that does sanding floors. I have a friend also that does sanding floor. And I'd been talking to this one guy, and he said, one of the things I like to do is I like to put little sanding discs when I'm going into the corners. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And it worked out good on the 175. But then I have a little hand thing that I use. Well, I turned it up too high. And when I went around one of the corners, it went all the stain off of it. So luckily,
Yeah.
I had a friend who came by and he was able to touch it up and make it look
Yeah.
good. But you're gonna make
Yeah.
mistakes. You gotta.
Yeah. Get you some water-based thing. You could have easily fixed it yourself. All you did, not the color off, just add color back to it. So, but yeah, of my knowledge is just over the years, a trial error, trying different things. I mean, guys, when I say I tried a lot, I put tile spinners on hardwood floors, geckos, truck mounts, portables, dirt dragons, 175s, CRBs. I've tried it, and some of these tools I do not recommend. I do not recommend a truck mount with high heat on wood floors. I tell guys like this. I'm not saying you can't do it, but when you start using those type of tools, you're taking a higher risk. But yeah, it's just been a good journey of learning this hardwood floor thing, and I'm still learning day in day out because I'm running into different situations each and every day. So every job isn't equal, even though some jobs are the same as a description, but every job isn't equal, and it's really fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got one more question, and then I'll let you go because I know your time is valuable, and we don't want to hold you too much longer. But this question is, I'm going to kind of reword it a little bit, but basically what they're asking is, or saying is basically, and I'm not going to give their name either. They say I have $500 in my account. What can I do to market my business with that $500? Or what would you recommend, I should say?
If I had $500 in my account, I would either, so if they got a business, they have a car, I would either go get a job like driving Uber or Lyft, and build upon that 500. Now, if you're really, really desperate and you really want to take that 500 and try to do something with it, I would go get road signs. Those little bitty road signs that you see on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
I would go get about 100 of 50 of those made and go put those out all over the city. Now, I will say you're taking a risk because those signs in most cities are a violation of city ordinance. Okay, but if you're willing to take the risk, that is probably the cheapest way of marketing your business and getting immediate work. And I would definitely run some type of special. But again, when you run specials, you have to realize you're going to attract a certain type of customer. So, but if a person only has $500 in their account and they're in this business, yeah, you gotta run specials. You gotta look for the cheapest way of marketing your business, because putting that 500 in AdWords or Facebook, it'll be gone in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do.
All right. Well, Courtney, man, we appreciate you coming on the podcast, and this will come out on Tuesday, and we'll share it in all the groups. But before we go, why don't you tell the listeners how they can find you on YouTube, and if they want to be a part of your private wood floor group, how do they do that?
So first, guys, you join the group. Join our opening forum group that's ran by me, Chandler Thompson, and Chad Mays. Is Cleaners Connect. You can also find me on YouTube at Truman Hardwood Floor, because I actually changed my YouTube name, so it's not Truman Steemers anymore. It's Truman Hardwood Floor Cleaning and Refinishing. And also, too, you can email me at trumansteemers@gmail.com. And to be a part of my hardwood group, you can just message me on my Facebook page, or you can email me. And it's $2,000. It's a one-time $2,000 fee. You get a one-day ride along with me. You also get access to the group, which has over 60 videos of me demonstrating what I do. And then we also have another member who's sand floors, and he's also does videos. And a lot of my members are starting to do videos of what they're doing. So you're getting so much value when you join the group, and also you get me as your mentor. So like today, one of my mentors was my mentees was doing a screen and recoat where something went wrong on the job, and he reached out to me, and I was able to guide him through the job, and the job came out great. So that's another thing too. So you're getting support, you're getting knowledge, and then you also get to come ride with me side by side one day to do a one-day ride along.
I was going to say $2,000 could save you from making a $7,000 mistake, right?
Yep. Yes, sir. There you go.
All right. Well, Courtney, thanks again, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.
Thank you, Steph.